is truly inspiring. What's really moving is to find that this campaign has found resonance in every corner of the country. And I'd be lying if even I said I thought that we believed the trajectory would be this swift and this drastic. I wouldn't have got into this if I didn't think we had the right message and a way to win. But what we found is that this has done more than that. This has really activated a coalition that cares about the future and sees how we can respond to this presidency, not by going on to the show that this president is putting on and trying to beat him on his terms, but by doing something completely different and actually allowing the chaos and the bleakness of this moment to summon the best from within us. I'm running for president because I am convinced that the moment we're in is one of those hinge points that comes along every 30, 40, or 50 years between whatever there was before and whatever is next. That we are lucky and unlucky enough to live at a moment where the next few years of choices we make will decide what the next half century looks like, and how Democratic and Republican administrations behave. And in that sense, even now, we are probably underreacting to the importance of the moment at hand. And that calls for a vision that summons the deepest values that unite us as a party and that motivate us moving forward, especially as the parties might be due for a realignment. A hostile takeover of the Republican Party by somebody who is as offensive to their values as he is to ours. And an opportunity for a reinvigorated Democratic Party that is reconnecting with the values that motivate what we do. And also a chance to reclaim some values that have drifted to the right in terms of how they get talked about. I am out to break the conservative monopoly on the language of freedom. Because in my understanding of freedom, it's about more than freedom from, it's about freedom to. And you're not free if you don't have health care. And you're not able to go start a small business because you're afraid leaving your old job means that you lose your coverage. Health care is free, and we got to recognize that. We got to recognize the positive freedoms that allow people to make a life of their choosing. That the ability to get a great education is the very stuff of freedom. So I'm determined to empower a Secretary of Education who believes in public education. I need not remind people in this state of the attacks on women's reproductive freedom. And it's twice as important for men to be standing with women on these issues. We're having a whole new conversation about what it means to stand up for freedom. We're having a whole different conversation about what it means to walk according to faith. We do this carefully because we belong to the party that honors the idea of separation of church and state, that is convinced that anyone in public office must do right by people of any religion and people of no religion equally. I also want people who are motivated by religious values to know that they have a choice, and that by no means does being a person of faith mean you are required to embrace an administration that's putting children in cages, glorifying those who are already best off, and doing it in a chest-thumping, self-aggrandizing way that is an offense to every religious and secular tradition we know. There's a better way. And we have an opportunity to remind people there's a choice. We're even changing the conversation about security at a time when those in power would have you think all there is to security is putting up a wall from coast to coast. And there's more to it than that. There's a lot more to it. We are facing cybersecurity threats and election security threats that will characterize the rest of the 21st century. We are coming face to face with the fact that climate disruption has become the security challenge of our time, nationally and globally. We know in the name of security that there can and must be ways to see to it that the Second Amendment is not a death sentence for tens of thousands of Americans. And there are constitutional ways to do that most Americans favor, but Washington can't deliver. Which brings me to the matter of democracy. Because the other thing that we have got to recognize in this election is that democracy is on the ballot, and that we cannot just assume that our country is increasing in its democratic character. In fact, we're slipping behind. It's not a democracy when dollars can outvote people. It's not a democracy when districts can be drawn where politicians are choosing their voters rather than the other way around. It's not a democracy when fellow U.S. citizens from Puerto Rico to the District of Columbia don't have proper representation on Capitol Hill. And we've got a chance to change that. I would argue that it would even be fitting for democracy, at the risk of sounding simple-minded, that we begin just choosing our presidents by counting up all the votes and giving it to the person who got the vote. And we're finding that people don't have to be from a Democratic region in order to understand the appeal and the logic of these values. And that's why I'm especially excited to be among you. Nowhere is it written that any part of the country, at least of all the heartland, has to be red on the map, has to be conservative or has to be Republican. As a matter of fact, there is a rich tradition of heartland progressivism that I think we've got a chance right now to reactivate. And it's one of the reasons I'm so pleased to be here, alongside my newfound love of Kansas City barbecue. I'll sample them all and then issue a full report. We're going to be spending some time with Jason Kander tomorrow and his veterans efforts that I think are really lighting the way toward a future where veterans reintegration is not just about the idea that veterans are broken, but really about re-empowering and reconnecting veterans. And I've admired his courage in describing and embodying some of those issues as a fellow veteran. I'm really appreciative. And we're talking in the name of democracy about the need to reattach the different threads of social fabric in our country that have been pulled apart in so many ways. It's not just a political project. There are other steps that we can take. It's why I proposed a call for national service that would give everyone an opportunity to serve. Because I think about the relationships that I formed when I was deployed, learning to trust my life to people totally different from me, politically, racially, generationally. But we trust every time we got in my vehicle, we were trusting each other with our lives. And I realized that you shouldn't have to go to war in order to have that experience. And that's why civilian national service opportunities, which we could bring to 250,000 in year one, just by properly funding the Serve America Act, and expand to 1 million across the country by the time we're celebrating our 250th birthday in 2026, such that it is such a social norm that whenever a young person's applying to college or to the workforce, wherever they're headed after high school, the first question on that application or interview is, what did you serve and where did you serve and what did you learn? And by doing that, we can make a huge difference in the country. I believe that my proposal for a Douglas plan is ambitious as a Marshall Plan, but this time invested right here at home to erase the racial inequities that have held Black Americans back for generations is going to be necessary for all of us to live in the kind of country we claim to. That as long as inequities persist in housing and health, education, and employment, access to justice, and to democracy, everybody is made worse off. And so you'll see me having that conversation with mostly white audiences just as often as I have it with mostly Black audiences. This is a conversation the whole country needs. This is not a specialty issue. The issue of racial justice in our time, I think, is an existential one for this country. They're even letting me trot out my high school Spanish on Telemundo and Univision. And it's great because this is our chance to bring together a coalition that's also a generational coalition. Maybe I'll end with this because I want us to have as much time as possible for discussion. But obviously I represent a new generational leadership. But many of those who are most excited about a vision for the future are people come to our events who are my parents' age. And to see them standing side by side with people barely old enough to vote shows what the kind of generational alliance looks like that is going to change our future. I talk about it in terms of 2055. That is, God willing, that's the year that I'll get to the current age of the current president and celebrate my retirement. And I believe that I will be, and we will be held to account for the choices we made in 2020. That by then, there will be one or two generations of people who are grown who are asking us, what did you do to make sure that our climate is sustainable? What did you do to make sure that race was not a predictor of your life expectancy or your income? What did you do to make gun violence a rare and exotic occurrence in this nation? What did you do to see to it that U.S. had a credible leadership role around the world? Those choices are about to be made right now, and we can't wait. And as a matter of political strategy, as well as a matter of what's right for this country, there's no going back. Coming from the Midwest, I think we know better than maybe some of our coastal friends for whom Trump voters are an exotic thing that they have trouble imagining. We know that there's a way this president wins. And the way it happens is that he makes us look like we're promising a return to normal and a defense of the system. And the system didn't work. Normal as we knew it broke down. That's the only way a president like the one we got right now gets within cheating distance of the Obama. And if we allow those conditions to persist, they could produce something like this, or God forbid, even worse. So now's our chance to put forward something completely different. And the way I look at it, doesn't get more different from the guy we got right now than a guy like me. That's who I am, that's what I'm up to, but again, I'd love to talk about whatever is most on your mind during the time that we have together. Unless this is such a shiny